$10,000 feels like a lot of money right up until you start doing the math on how to actually grow it. Then it starts to feel like nothing. It's 11:47 p.m. You're scrolling through your phone and somehow you've ended up watching a guy in a rented Lamborghini explain how he turned 10 grand into $500,000 in 18 months by trading something he keeps calling high conviction asymmetric plays. He's standing in front of a Miami penthouse he absolutely does not live in. And you're sitting there thinking, what if I just had $10,000 to work with? What's actually possible? Here's the thing, nobody in that algorithm wants to tell you. You can absolutely turn 10,000 into 500,000. The math is real, the strategy is boring, and the people who actually built generational wealth this way aren't making YouTube videos about it. They're sitting in a Toyota Corolla at a Costco gas pump and don't even know they're rich. My name is Nick, not a financial advisor, just math. Hit subscribe, let's go. $10,000 to $500,000. That's a 50 times return. To pull that off, your money needs to roughly double a little under 6 times. And the only thing that determines how long that takes is your annual rate of return. So let's run it. There's this old finance shortcut called the rule of 72. You take 72, divide it by your return percentage, and that's roughly how many years it takes your money to double. At 8%, it doubles every 9 years. At 10%, every 7 years and change. Now, the S&P 500, the big boring index of the 500 largest American companies. Over the last 30 years, that thing has returned about 10.1% a year nominal, around 7.4% after inflation. So let's plug those in. If you drop $10,000 into an S&P 500 index fund and never add another penny, at 10% you cross $500,000 at year 41, at 8% year 51, at 7% year 58. Now I know what you're thinking. 41 years, that's not a strategy, Nick. That's a sentence. Like, by the time my money becomes $500,000, I'll be too old to remember why I cared. Stay with me because this is where it gets fun. That number, 41 years, is the do-nothing path. That's if you make literally one $10,000 deposit and then forget your password. The math gets dramatically less depressing the second you add even small monthly contributions, because contributions don't add to your account, they multiply with it. Let me introduce you to someone. We'll call her Venus. She's 28, lives in Columbus, makes about $58,000 a year as a marketing coordinator. She's not rich. She drives a 2018 Honda Civic, and her apartment has beige carpet that came with a lease. She's just decided she's done feeling broke, so she scrapes together $10,000 from her savings, opens a brokerage account, and drops it into a total stock market index fund. Then she sets up an automatic transfer of $400 a month. That's it. That's her whole financial plan. End of year 1, Venus has about $15,800. End of year 5, she's at $44,000. She's frustrated. She's been doing this for 5 years and she still doesn't have enough money to buy a used car in cash. This is the moment, mathematically and psychologically, where most people quit. They look at their balance, decide compounding is broken, and pull the money out. Venus doesn't, because she watched a video like this one. We'll come back to her. But there's a specific year, usually somewhere between year 9 and 11, where the entire game inverts. Your money starts doing more work than you do. And most people quit literally 1 or 2 years before it happens. We'll get to that. First, the strategy. The lazy method is 3 steps, and I'm going to say them out loud, and you're going to think I'm holding back. I'm not. This is genuinely it. Step 1, open a brokerage account at Vanguard, Fidelity, or Schwab. $0 to open, no minimum. 4 minutes on your phone in your pajamas. Step 2, buy a total stock market index fund. The two big ones are VTI from Vanguard and VOO, which is Vanguard's S&P 500 fund. Both charge 0.03%. That means for every $10,000 invested, you pay $3 a year, $3 less than a Starbucks oat milk latte, and it gets you ownership of basically every major American company in existence. Step 3, set up automatic monthly contributions. Every payday, money goes from checking to brokerage, and the brokerage automatically buys more of the index fund. You don't think about it, you don't time it, you don't check the market. It just runs. That's it. That's the entire lazy method. You're now an investor. Congratulations. Now let me tell you why this absurdly simple thing demolishes almost every other investment strategy on the planet. There's a report called SPIVA, published twice a year by S&P Dow Jones, tracking how professional fund managers, the ones in suits managing billions, perform compared to just buying the index. The latest report shows 65% of large cap professional fund managers underperformed the S&P 500 in 2024. Stretch that to 15 years, and 0 out of 22 fund categories had a majority of managers beat the index. 0, none. The pros with PhDs and Bloomberg terminals and entire research departments can't beat the thing you can buy on your phone for 0.03%. And look, if you're feeling skeptical, I get it. It feels too easy. There has to be a catch. There isn't. Warren Buffett, the actual richest investor of his generation, made a public $1 million bet in 2008 that a plain index fund would beat a hand-picked basket of elite hedge funds over 10 years. He won. The index returned 126%. The hedge fund of funds returned 36%. He gave the winnings to charity. His official advice to regular investors: buy a low-cost index fund and stop trying to be clever. The lazy method is what the smartest investor on earth tells his own wife to do with his money when he dies. That's not nothing. Okay, but here's where most videos would wrap up. Slap a subscribe for more on the screen and move on. We're not doing that because if I leave you here, you'll go open the account, buy the fund, and then absolutely sabotage yourself within 18 months. Statistically, that is what happens. There's a research firm called Dalbar that's been running the same study for 30 years. They look at what actual investors earn in their accounts versus what the market itself earned. And the gap is, it's not great. In 2024, the S&P 500 returned 25%. The average equity fund investor, 16.5%. That's an 8.5 percentage point gap. That's not a rounding error. That's the entire reason most people don't end up rich. Over 30 years, that same gap turned a 9.6% market return into a 6.8% investor return. On 100 grand, that difference compounds into about $864,000 of wealth that just like evaporated. That's a paid off house gone just from 1 percentage point of behavior over 30 years. So how do they do it? Mostly 2 ways. They panic sell during crashes and they try to time the market. Here's a number that should make you uncomfortable. If you'd invested in the S&P 500 for the last 30 years and missed just the 10 best days, your returns would be cut roughly in half. Miss the best 30 days, your returns drop by about 84%. And here's the kicker, roughly 76% of those best days happen during a bear market or during the first 2 months of a new bull market. In other words, the days that make you rich happen specifically when everyone is convinced the world is ending and you should sell, which is exactly when most people sell. The lazy method works only if you actually do nothing, which sounds easy. It is the hardest thing about it. Now, the second silent killer, fees, and this one I have a personal vendetta against because nobody talks about it loud enough. Imagine two people. Both have $1 million invested. Both earn 7% a year. Person A pays 0.03% in fund fees. Person B pays 1% to a financial advisor. Same money, same return, but after 30 years, person A has about $7.6 million. Person B has about $5.7 million. That 1% fee, the one that sounds like nothing on paper, quietly siphoned off about $2 million of their retirement. I'm going to repeat that. 1%, a fee that sounds on the surface almost rude to even complain about, costs you over $500,000 on a $1 million portfolio in 30 years, and many people pay way more than that. Actively managed mutual funds often charge 0.5 to 1% on top of an advisor's 1%. So we're talking about a 2% annual drag every single year forever. Congratulations, you just paid someone $560,000 over 30 years to underperform a fund you could have bought for $3 in fees. Welcome to wealth management. Here's the part the financial industry really doesn't want you to internalize. The lazy index fund charges 0.03%. The expensive actively managed fund charges 1%. The actively managed fund usually underperforms, so you are paying more money to do worse. You are paying a premium for a worse product. There's no scenario where that makes sense to anyone except the person collecting the fee. If you take nothing else from this video, take this. Fees are the only part of investing that's guaranteed. Returns are uncertain. Fees are 100% certain. Minimize the certain bad thing. Okay, stay with me, because here's the part that should genuinely make you angry that nobody told you sooner. The real lever isn't your return, it's your contribution. Let me show you what I mean. Take that $10,000 and add $200 a month at 8%. After 30 years, you're at about $399,000. Bump it to $500 a month, you're at $846,000. Bump it to $1,000 a month, and now you're sitting on roughly $1.6 million. Going from $200 to $500 a month, that's an extra $300 a month. A streaming service and takeout budget, that decision alone adds about $447,000 to your future net worth. Almost the entire $500,000 target just from one tiny lifestyle adjustment held steady for 3 decades. Let's check back in on Venus. She started with $10,000 plus $400 a month. Year 5, she had $44,000 and felt like quitting. Year 9, she's at $96,000. Year 10, she crosses $112,000. And here, right around year 10, something clicks. Venus's portfolio earns about $9,000 that year just from compounding. Venus only contributed $4,800. For the first time, the market did more work than she did. By year 20, Venus is at $311,000. By year 30, she's at $760,000. She's a marketing coordinator from Columbus with a Honda Civic. The math just made her wealthy. That moment Venus hit at year 10, that's the inflection point. That's the lazy method earning its name. Every dollar past that point is mostly the market paying her back for being patient. And listen, I know what some of you are thinking right now. I don't have $400 a month. I don't have $200 a month. You're sitting there doing the mental math at 11 p.m. on a Tuesday, calculating whether you can even do $50 because rent went up again and your car needs new brakes and the grocery bill keeps creeping and somehow the numbers just don't ever quite work out. I see you. That feeling is real. That feeling is also exactly what the system wants you to feel. Give up before you start because $50 doesn't feel like enough. Here's the truth. $50 a month at 8% over 30 years is $74,000. $100 a month is $148,000. $150 a month is $222,000. The lazy method does not require you to be rich. It requires you to start. Whatever the number is, that's the number. Future you doesn't care if it was $50 or $500. Future you just cares that you started. I want to tell you about a guy named Ronald Read because honestly, he's the entire point of this video in human form. Ronald Read was a gas station attendant in Vermont for 25 years. After that, he worked as a janitor at JCPenney for another 17. He drove a used Toyota Yaris. He chopped his own firewood. He wore a flannel coat held together with safety pins, the actual safety pins, because the original buttons had fallen off and he didn't see a reason to replace them. People in his town genuinely thought he was poor. When Ronald Read died in 2014 at age 92, his estate was worth roughly $8 million. He left $4.8 million to the local hospital and $1.2 million to the public library. He left the town on his way out, more money than most people see in 3 lifetimes, and he didn't do anything special. He bought boring blue chip dividend stocks, Procter and Gamble, Johnson and Johnson, Colgate. He held them for decades. He reinvested every dividend he never sold. He never owned a single technology company he didn't understand. Ronald Read is what the lazy method actually looks like in real life. Not a guru on a yacht. A janitor in a flannel coat who quietly outinvested almost every hedge fund manager of his generation by doing absolutely nothing exciting for 60 straight years. Now, I can hear what some of you are thinking. Nick, that's great if I have 30 years, I'm 45, I'm 50. The lazy method doesn't work for me. Here's the thing about that. It absolutely still works. The variable just shifts from time to contributions. Watch this. You're 45, you've got 20 years until retirement. Start with $10,000. Crank contributions to $1,000 a month at 8%. End balance. About $635,000. You're 50. You've got 15 years. Contribute $1,500 a month. End balance. About $565,000. The lazy method doesn't care how old you are. It only cares about 2 inputs, time and money, and it lets you trade one for the other. Starting at 25 with $200 a month gets you the same place as starting at 45 with $1,000 a month. The 25-year-old has time. The 45-year-old has cash flow. Both can win. Both have to actually start. The only people who can't win are the ones still telling themselves next year is the year. Now, in the spirit of being honest, I need to mention where we are right now, because pretending the future is guaranteed to look like the past is how people get hurt. As of May 2026, the S&P 500 is sitting around 7,400, all-time high. The Shiller-Cape ratio, which measures how expensive stocks are relative to long-term earnings, is at roughly 40. Historical average is around 17. The only times in history it's been this high were 1929 and 1999, which, did not end well for the people who bought right at the top. Robert Shiller, the Nobel laureate, the thing is named after, projects S&P 500 real returns over the next decade might be as low as 1.3% a year, so the next 10 years may not look like the last 10. What does that mean for the lazy method? Two things. Plan with 7 to 8% nominal as your central case, not 10. And this is exactly when discipline matters most. When the next crash happens, and at this CAPE level it eventually will, you'll be tempted to sell. Don't. You'll be tempted to wait it out in cash. Don't. The lazy method assumes you keep buying right through the scary parts, especially the scary parts, because that's when shares are on sale. So let's bring this home, because if you're still here, you actually care about this. I respect that. $10,000 to $500,000 is real. The math works. The strategy is buy a low-cost total market index fund, automate your contributions, and don't sell. That is the entire game. The reason you've never heard it explained this simply is that nobody can build a business charging you for it. There's no commission on doing nothing. There's no upsell on patience. There's no premium subscription for sitting still. The lazy method is a financial product. The entire industry has a financial incentive to talk you out of. And look, if you're sitting there feeling like you're behind, like everyone else is making 40% on stocks and you're somehow falling further behind by being patient, listen, you are not behind. You're playing the long game in a culture that worships the short one. The system rewards noise. The lazy method wins anyway. You have permission to be the boring one. The boring one wins. Wealth, the real kind, the kind that sticks, isn't built by being right one time. It's built by not being wrong over and over for 30 years. It's built by automating one boring decision and aggressively ignoring it. There's no prize for making it complicated, no trophy for stress. So set it up this week, set it up tonight, then forget about it. And in 30 years, when your boring index fund quietly hands you $500,000, you can be the guy in the Toyota at the Costco gas pump who knew something everyone else missed. Real wealth was never the Lamborghini. It was the Yaris.